So the Tennessee rifle season, as I film this, is just getting underway right now. It's December 1st. I think rifle opened November 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. But I didn't have to pay a lot of attention to that this year because before rifle season even opened this year, I had already limited out with two pretty big white-tailed deer. So today I'm going to tell the story of those two bucks that I was able to get this year and kind of just explain how my whole season went down. So I've got my little journal here. I wrote down all the important stuff from this hunting season. So I can kind of remember it all in order and recall what all happened. But the season started pretty eventfully. Way before the actual season started, obviously we put a bunch of cameras out. And one of the bucks that I had, the cat's going to get back there and mess up the focus. One of the bucks I had really early this year in Velvet was actually a buck that I had last year, which was actually a buck that I'm pretty sure was related to a pretty big 13 I had a couple years ago. But it was just a really nice, what I thought it was going to be was a really nice 10 point. And it actually blew up a little bit mid-velvet season and turned into a nice 13, probably like 160 inches. I don't know, somewhere in that realm. Not huge, but a pretty big buck and a really big buck for Tennessee. And hunted that deer pretty hard during the bow season, the early bow season. And I hunted it during the, get out of here, cat. I hunted it during the velvet season as well, the 2-day velvet season we had, which, so I wanted to go ahead and check my notes so I knew that I was getting the right dates, but the velvet season started the 23rd and ended the 25th. I really didn't have much luck during the velvet season. I seen a couple does and stuff, but mostly the only thing that happened was I got demolished by ticks and chiggers and poison ivy. So that was not the best hunt in my book. And really that whole thing was just a fail. So I don't really expect to do it next year unless I have a little bit of a better setup. And I don't know, maybe I'll need the conditions to be a little different because it was like 90 in that blind and a bunch of clothes. Not a bunch of clothes, but I had an underlayer and a camo shirt on. So that was not the deal. It was miserable. And I did a 1 full day sit and I got ate up real bad. And I decided I was going to give it one more try because he was coming in, the buck that I was hunting, he was coming in here and there daylighting at that point. So I actually thought that I had a pretty good chance. So I went back in there the second day and hunted like 7 hours maybe and decided I'm done because this is not going to happen. I was getting absolutely torn up by poison ivy and all kind of stuff. And yeah, I just decided that hunt was going to be a wash. So bow season then opened up October 3rd. And I had a lot of optimism for the early bow season. I had that buck still daylighting here and there. And I hunted him pretty hard. I think I hunted him so hard actually that I might have pushed him out of the area a little bit because he started actually showing up more in my dad's spot that he hunts, which is probably about a half a mile away. And he wasn't really showing up there at all. And then he kind of transitioned to that spot. I think it might also just be early velvet season area he was staying. And then he found a new corridor somewhere else to go. But still, it was pretty disappointing because that's a deer now I've hunted 2 years. And I really wanted to get him down. He's just a monster. I mean, he's a really big buck. He's for sure would have been my biggest buck that I had ever harvested, and it kind of hurt not seeing him for a while. But fast forward to October 26th, which is now a good bit in the future, obviously, and I had a new big shooter buck show up at a different property, and automatically all my focus shifted to that buck because in 3 days he was in there every single night and daylighted twice, so all my focus then automatically shifted. And the first sit that I ever did for him, which was the last day of bow season, it would have been November 8th, which was my first encounter with him. And I even got a tiny little bit of video. It's like a 2-second video of him as he was walking off. I just wasn't able to get a shot. He came in at like 40, and that's right on the edge of where I'd be comfortable taking a shot. Like I said, this was my first season bow hunting full time. I was using the Bear Legit, which is a pretty good little beginner bow, a good starter bow. And I made a whole review on that bow if you want to go check that one out if you're interested in that bow. It's a pretty nice little bow. I did go ahead and move on. I think now I'm using I forget the name of the bow. I'll pop it up right here. But it's the Hunting Public bow that they made with Bear. It just seemed like a pretty good deal when I went to the bow shop, but that's besides the point. Obviously, November 8th, that first encounter happened, and I was pretty torn up about it. He was bigger than I thought he was. I thought he was just a decent size mainframe 8 with the 2 kickers off the G2s. But when I seen him in person, you could pretty instantly tell that this is a more significant deer. It's definitely a lot bigger than I thought it was, and I was pretty torn up about not getting it. Obviously, then the next day, November 9th, a lot of things changed. moving from muzzleloader to bow, or bow to muzzleloader rather, opens up another like 70, 80 yards for me of shooting in my area. I can pretty much shoot as far as I can see once I got the muzzleloader, so it's a pretty big change in that time frame. So everything shifted. And the buck came in the next day, November 9th. He did the exact same thing he did the day before, and that was his fatal mistake, because obviously with the muzzleloader, I could reach out a little bit further. I took my shot, and I was lucky enough to harvest the 10-pointer mainframe 8 that I was hunting. And I've gotten into scoring my deer myself. It's probably not the most accurate. I would give or take 5 inches either way, but I scored him at 137, which was my biggest buck ever at that point, and it was surreal. I couldn't really believe it, because it was a deer that I had hunted a lot last year, and he never came back during the velvet season. He never came back at all in the early season. And the first time I seen him was right then, what day did I say? October 26th, the first time I ever actually seen him on camera. And it all came together pretty quick on that deer, and those are the ones that mean the most, I think. Those ones where you hunt a deer for multiple years. A lot different from the next story we're about to get into of the next buck I was able to harvest, but just a really incredible 2-day hunt for that deer. So fast forward a little bit, I took a little bit of a break after getting that buck. I don't know, I was just really happy, and I was pretty content with giving it a couple weeks. But on one of my dad's cameras, and I don't have a picture of it, we had this really big 12 run through. And the picture was blurry anyway. It wasn't a very good photo, but instantly I knew it wasn't a buck that I had seen before. And it's actually at the property where I was hunting the Big 13 earlier this year. But instantly I knew this is a very different deer, a big deer, and one that I definitely needed to do some sits for. So November 19th would be the first day that I went in there and hunted that deer. And that was an all-day sit. I seen a couple deer that day, I think. I think it was all does though, and right near the end of the hunt, I'm talking like late, like I was about to get out of the blind and begin my mile walk back to the truck, I seen something at the end of the field. I didn't have a chance to get it on video, but it looked like a pretty good buck. It looked like something pretty significant. Definitely I thought a shooter, but it was really hard to tell. It was dark, it was kind of in the brush at the back of the field, and I'm not the type of hunter to take the chance shooting at something when I don't fully know what it is, so I just let it walk. But the next day when I came back to do my next hunt, there was definitely a confidence that whatever that was last night, I seen where he went up to, and I thought there's really a good chance that buck comes right back out of there this morning. And the wind was perfect. The wind was blowing right behind me. Couldn't smell me at all, even if he wanted to. And I forget the exact time. It was probably around 7 o'clock. I started to notice something dark walking down from that hill. And you really couldn't get a good look at it. But obviously, as you're going to see in this next clip that I'm putting up, I quickly realized what it was. He came off the hill that he was on, and all I could see was antlers. Big, big deer. Definitely the biggest deer I had ever seen in my life in person. Right then and there, I knew it. And he came down and just started thrashing a tree, but he was behind a bunch of stuff, and I definitely couldn't get a shot at him at that angle. And I was really nervous because I've had deer do that before, bucks do that before in that spot. And typically what they'll do is they'll either come down and hit that scrape, not that scrape specifically, but they scrape in that area a lot. I figured he'd either come down and hit that and go back up that hill, or he'd walk back into that brush and I'd never really get a shot at him. But to my amazement, what he ended up doing was walking right across the field, and it was probably 55, 60-ish yards. I don't have an exact measurement, but it's pretty far out there. He ended up walking right across, like I said, and offering a perfect shot. And when he did that, I ended up being able to drop him right in his tracks with the muzzleloader. I'm going to be honest, muzzleloader season is kind of becoming my favorite time of the year to hunt. It just seems like that's the peak rut for bucks in Tennessee, and they really got going this year. So once again, like I said previously, I'm scoring my own deer, so give or take 5 inches either way. But he did end up scoring 150 inches even. He was like 150 and 2/8, but about 150. And for sure, that was my biggest deer. My biggest deer before this season was 125, and I got that deer when I was 11. I'm obviously not 11 anymore. I'm 19 years old, so definitely a big jump in between there. But I got a lot more serious about it this year, doing a lot more sits all day, 24-hour sits, but like 12-hour sits, all day sits. And it really changed a lot for me. I was seeing how many deer can run by and not get on camera. That happened so much all throughout the early velvet season. Those 2 days that I hunted, I had a bunch of deer walk by and not get on camera. The early bow season, I guess I shouldn't say the early velvet season. It's only 2 days. It's the velvet season. But the early bow season, I had a bunch of deer do that. And it really just showed you not every deer that you're going to see in the actual hunt is going to go on camera. The more I look at it, it kind of feels like putting out trail cameras is to find what's in the area, but not necessarily to plan your hunt around, because just because you have a buck not coming in the daylight on camera, that buck could still be running through there and you just might not be getting eyes on him for whatever reason. So I definitely say just because you're not getting a buck coming on camera a bunch, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be hunting him. But yeah, that pretty much caps up my entire season, encapsulates my entire season. It's pretty wild. It got really rowdy for about 20 days and then it was done. And like I said, rifle season's just started in Tennessee. Really grateful to be able to get those 2 big bucks, but also pretty disappointed because I've got a couple huge deer still running through on cameras, and it's weird because you're sitting here going, I wish I could just go out and hunt those deer again, but maybe they'll make it to next year, you know? That's what one of these deer, at least, the first one that I talked about, he was a deer that I hunted last year, wasn't able to get, came back this year, and obviously that's when I was able to get him. So just because you don't get them the year that you find them doesn't mean you won't get them in the future. But yeah, still planning a lot of cool stuff. Still planning a couple bow hunts, maybe go take a couple does with the bow and try to actually get those fully on video and document the entire hunt. I haven't really been able to do that this year because I was so focused on getting the bucks down, and I said I was going to do it, but it changes a little bit when you actually get out there. It's pretty difficult to film and hunt and do all this stuff, mostly when you're solo. Obviously, the channel doesn't even have 1,000 subscribers. I'm not going to get a cameraman or anything to do it, but yeah, just a really incredible season for me. Definitely my best so far, and feels like it's going to be kind of hard to follow this up next year, but if just one of the really big bucks that I've had come through on camera comes back, we might be able to do it. But yeah, now that we got 2 bucks down this year, and that's the limit in Tennessee, hopefully I'll be able to produce some more videos for you guys. Haven't been doing a lot of them, but like I said, just haven't been able to because of hunting, and also it's cold. Like, maybe you guys can't tell, it's like 20 degrees out here. It is freezing. So I'm kind of trying to wrap this video up so I can go inside, get warmed up, and edit this video. Shouldn't be a lot of editing. It's pretty straightforward, I guess. Appreciate you guys for tuning in, though, to the video. If you liked what you've seen, go ahead and like, and maybe next season we'll be able to do more actual, like, hunting content where we get out into the field and you actually see the whole process and we get to document all of it. Maybe at the end of this season we do some stuff like that too. I do want to get a doe with the bow. I was not able to get my first deer this year with a bow so far, but obviously throughout gun season in Tennessee you can use a bow too, so hopefully we're able to get an archery bow, or an archery doe rather, down onto the ground and get that all documented. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Hopefully more consistent uploads here in the future. I say that probably every video, but I don't know, it's hard to do. But thank you guys for watching. I'm out. Peace.